Let's now review the standard reports module. Every instance of Avaya call reporting is going to have the standard reports module. Every module after that is optional. Now, under standard reports, we will review how to find the right report. What are the different report types? What are the reports telling you? We'll review the nomenclature of the reports, how the summary tables work. We will review how to set up your call cost profiles if you want to do that true call accounting, call costing, how to schedule reports, as well as review some of the system alerts. So let's log back in to our Avaya call reporting instance and select Reports. Here you'll see access to Cradle to Grave, Run Report, Schedule Report, Import and Export Reports, and Manage Call Cost Profiles. If you have the Custom Reports module, you'll see this option to create a report. We will review that in just a bit. But let's go ahead and select Run Report. In here you can see a list of all of the standard reports available within Avaya call reporting. There are over 50 standard reports out of the box. Now to find the reports a little easier, you can enter the search option of what kind of reports you want to see, or you can use these filters or tags. Think of these as also like folders. So if you want to run reports on the account codes out of your IP office, select account codes, and there you'll see the different account code reports. Agent reports are your user reports. Again, you're assigning a license or a basic user license to know who you want to report on. So they're considered an agent. This doesn't necessarily mean they're a call center agent. Again, this is just your users in the IP office. This can be analog phones, digital phones, IP phones, SIP phones, soft phones. If they're a user creating in your IP office, this is the report you'd want to run. Call costing is if you want to do that true call accounting, call costing. So bill back to users or departments. You can also run reports on call direction, inbound, outbound, and internal. Caller ID or the external number based off of what is sent from your phone carrier. You can also run reports on your groups. This includes your IP office hunt groups as well as ACR skill groups if you have the contact center software. You can also do your local numbers, which is your DIDs or your toll-free numbers, meaning the numbers coming in to your IP office system. Multimedia reports are the contact center reports, so if you don't have the contact center, you can just ignore those. System reports or standard reports is such as abandoned calls, 911 calls, call performance metrics. You can also run reports on tags. These are tags built within the incoming call routes or Voicemail Pro. Time interval is both group and agent reports, but shown in a time interval format. And then trunk reports. Now, it's important to note with trunk reports, this supports PRIs, T1s, and SIP trunks. If you have analog or BRI lines, Avaya call reporting will still report on the usage of those lines, but you can't report on it from an individual trunk level. So we'll still see those calls, but it doesn't tell us the individual analog trunk on those calls. Let's now review how easy it is to run a report. Let's go ahead and start with some agent reports. And we'll select a standard Avaya call reporting or Avaya agent call summary. Now to run a report, you need to fill out this information in the bottom right-hand corner. First, let's select our time frame. Avaya call reporting can run a report for as long as the system has been installed. So if it was installed yesterday, you could run reports from yesterday. If it was installed a month ago, you could go back a month. If you've had Avaya call reporting installed for a year, you could go back for an entire year. You just select the dates that you want. You go ahead and click a start and an end date, and it will highlight every day in between. So I just selected this entire month, or I could go back and do the entire month of April, or I could do just a week. Now by default, Avaya call reporting is going to run reports all 24 hours out of the day. But if I want to change that, I simply select this Advanced tab and select my start and end time. Now, an important thing to note is the start and end time will only affect the first and the last day of the report. So if I set this to 8 to 5 or 1700 hours and hit OK, it's going to start at 8 a.m. on Monday, and then it will end at 5 p.m. or 1700 on Friday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are still going to be all 24 hours out of the day. It's just adjusting the start and end time. Now, if I were to run this for just a single day, that would be just fine. That would be 8 to 5. But if I select a week, What I want to do if I only want to see 8 to 5 is not adjust the start time here, but adjust the time of day. Here I can select 8 to 5 or 8 to 1700. And that will do 8 to 5 within each day. You can also just do particular days of the week. So I highlighted a week, but maybe I only want to see Monday, Wednesday, Friday on my report. So I can select Monday, Wednesday, Friday. If these different time of days or days of the week is a common thing you do, you may want to recommend creating a shift so you don't have to keep selecting those. Here you can create predefined shifts, and then you can just hit that drop-down shift and adjust your days of the week and time of day. For this training, I'm going to leave it all 24 hours out of the day, and then click OK. I have now selected my date and time range. Now I need to select my agents or my users. There's two ways you can select users. First, under the Users tab, you can select your individual users that you're going to run this report on. You can also select a role. A role is a grouping of users. So if you're running reports on the same users over and over and over again, I highly recommend you select and create a role, because then you don't have to come in here and select those users every single time. There are two ways to manage your roles. One way is within the IP Office Hunt groups. By default, Avaya Call Reporting will create roles based off of your hunt groups and the users that are part of that group. You can simply select Edit Roles to create new roles. Now you'll notice here, these roles here, I cannot change these. That is because these are the IP Office Hunt groups, so these are managed through IP Office. So if I want to adjust who's part of these roles, I need to also adjust who's a part of that group. If I want to create my own custom group, just simply select Create Role, and I'm going to select Training and hit OK. There I have a role, and I can now manage the users that are part of this role. I can now select the users. Now this is same as running a report, but the nice thing is I only have to do this one time. And then once I have my users, I can just select that role every single time I want to run a report on these users. So let's go ahead and select just a few here. And apply. I can adjust this role at any time. So as I bring on new employees or employees leave, I can adjust them. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Now I have that training role. So I'm going to simply select Training, hit OK, and I have just in essence selected those 15 users. Now within the standard reports, every single report can have charts added to them. You can do line charts, pie charts, bar charts. You get to pick and choose. So if all you want to see is pie charts, you can do that. Or if you want one of each, just simply select the individual charts. You can make them bigger or drag them just by clicking on the corners and edges. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK, and now I need to select my format. It's important to note that if you selected charts, they will only be displayed if you run the report in a PDF format. But you can also run a report in Excel spreadsheet, HTML, or CSV. Let's go ahead and select PDF. I'm going to go ahead and hit Run Report. Here I have my agent call summary. Up at the top, I have my summary table. Down along the bottom, I have my individual statistics for my 15 agents. There again, I can see my inbound calls, outbound calls, internal, total, how many answered and missed they had for their inbound calls, and their talking durations. If I added charts, I can see clearly the agents at the end here were definitely taking a lot more calls. Okay, now there are over 50 standard reports out of the Avaya IP Office Avaya Call Reporting System. The reason why there's over 50 standard reports is no two businesses are the same, and you may want to get additional data out of your reports. Every single report is unique in the data that was presented to it. So for perhaps, maybe you only want to focus on the inbound calls. Back within our reporting, here's a report that's just a simple inbound summary or an outbound summary. Or perhaps back on my report, I want to see each of these calls line by line. That is what's called a detailed report. If it doesn't say the word volume or a time interval in it or a summary, that is a detailed report, which will show each call line by line. Let me show you a few other report examples. Let's now transition over to group reports, which again can be your IP Office Hunt groups and ACR skill groups. Here, perhaps I want to see a simple group summary. Select my time frame, just like the report before, but we'll just do a different date and time here. Hit OK. Then I select my groups. Again, your users and groups will be an active list within the IP Office. If you've had past users or groups, as turnover has happened or you've changed your system, you can still run reports on those past groups or users. Just select past groups and users and select those old groups. I'm going to go ahead and select just a few groups here. Hit OK. I can add my charts to the reports again if I want. Hit OK and run report. And here I have my group summary. Again, I get a summary of all the calls to those groups up at the top here, and then individual statistics for the groups I've selected. If I wanted to see the details of those 477 calls, which ones were answered or missed, again, that's where maybe I want to run a detailed report. Right above it is group presented calls. This doesn't say the word summary or volume in it, so that I know this is a detailed report. I could select my same date and time range, hit OK, select that customer service group. Instead of summarizing the report, which would be similar results as to what I just got, I want to select false and have that run and show me the details of all 477 calls. Again, get the same information at the top. We missed or unanswered 100 of them. Which ones were they? Now I see each call line by line. So I can see which ones I answered, which ones I missed, because I don't have any agent information, no speed of answer, how long did they sit in the system before they hung up. If you want to group these details together based off of a time interval, that's where you could run a queued call volume or select the time interval reports, which will have those time of day reports. So perhaps I want to see how many calls came into my group or queue by hours out of the day or days of the week or weeks of the year. You can select lots of different formats. Let's go ahead and select another different date and time range. For this particular report, maybe I want to see which of the days of the week are the busiest. So I could select days of the week or hours out of the day. Again, select the group that I want. We'll select customer service. We don't want that to summarize. We want to see the details and run report. Now I have my details or summaries up here at the top, and then I have the details by hours out of the day, which allows me to see my peak call time. And again, as you can see, all of the different reports have different values. Now, one nice feature about Avaya call reporting, as you click on the different reports, you'll notice it changes over here. Now, this data here is not your actual call data. This is just a snapshot. So that way you can see what values are on the report, so you don't have to take time to run that report to see what is on it. You can just click between each of the different reports to see what values are on each of those reports. Now, as you run reports, you may have questions about how it came up with the data. Or perhaps, maybe you are curious how it tallies or calculates the summary table. It's important to note that the summary table is a summary of the calls. It is not just adding up these columns, because it's possible that multiple agents were involved with the same call. So it's not going to count that call more than once. Each agent will get credit for the call, but it's only going to count that as one call up here in the summary table. To help explain this a little clearer, I'm going to go back to my Avaya call reporting main menu and select Cradle to Grave. Cradle to Grave is like a master report. It runs just like a report. Now, this is going to have a lot of details on it, so the longer time frame you select, the longer it's going to take to run, because this is going to show every detail of every call. I'm going to go ahead and just select a day here. We'll come back to this filter tool, and I'm going to hit execute. I'm going to zoom in, so this is a little easier for you to see. How you can zoom in is hold down Control on your keyboard and then use the scroll bar or scroll on your mouse. Now here is your Cradle to Grave instance. Now each call, what you're currently seeing, is just a summary of your inbound, outbound, and internal calls. But on the left, you can hit this plus button and it will expand the call, and it will show every single detail as it happened in a chronological order. So this call, I can see the total, it was 7 minutes and 42 seconds long. Well, what made up that 7 minutes and 42 seconds? Now I can see each event. So I'm going to see the auto attendant events. What was the auto attendant? It was the auto attendant called main AA. They selected the marketing group. It's important to know if you have your IP office hunt groups set to a collective ring method, it will display in Cradle to Grave and the reports that it's ringing the group. It won't show all the different agents that it's ringing at the same time. Again, that's only a collective call waiting. If you do a sequential, rotary, or most idle, it will show the individual agents that it's being presented to. I'll show you an example here in just a few minutes. But let me go back to the nomenclature, the report summaries. Here I can see Mario Kelly, extension 1182, answered that call, and he talked for 2 minutes and 5 seconds. He then put it on Park for 1 minute and 2 seconds. And then Cynthia Hart, extension 1113, picked up and talked for 2 minutes and 23 seconds. So here I now have 2 agents involved with this call. Again, this is one call, but 2 different agents. Under the report, both agents are going to get credit. So Cynthia Hart is going to have access or be counted for that inbound call. But so is Mario Kelly, because again, both agents were involved with the call. But up in the summary table, it's only going to say it was one call. Each individual agent will get credit for their individual talk time. So you'll notice back on this call, Mario Kelly got the call again a little later because Cynthia transferred this back to the marketing group. That's odd. Why would she do that? She's part of that group. This is why Cradle to Grave matters so much. It allows you to have a clear picture of what's happening in your IP office. Now, the nice thing about Cradle to Grave is you can move the columns around in any order that you prefer. You can click on the column headers to sort by ascending or descending values. I mentioned earlier that if you have your groups set to a rotary, longest waiting, or circular, it will present to each of the different agents. Here again, you can see what that looks like. This call came into the marketing group. It rang Jorge for 6 seconds. Then it rang Brian for 6 seconds. Then it rang Veronica. So all of these agents are missing these calls. Luckily, it got to Edward. He picked up after 3 seconds and talked for 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And again, put it on Park. And then Veronica, who ironically missed the call just a few minutes ago, talked the majority of this call. So again, 2 different agents involved with the call. Actually, a lot of different agents involved, but 2 talked. So they're both going to get credit for their talk times. They're both going to say they were involved with the call under the agent summary reports. But again, it will split out and associate their individual talk times to the reports. Okay. Now again, there's a lot of different reports available within Avaya call reporting. Once you have the reports that you found, you can run them as often as you need. You can also schedule those reports to run automatically. So perhaps I want to run reports on this abandoned calls or my agent call summary. To schedule this report, I simply right-click and select Schedule Report. Here you need to fill out the report scheduler. There's 3 steps to schedule a report. First, you need to determine how you're going to get that scheduled. You give it a name. We'll just call this training. And then enter your email address, save it to the directory, or print it. You can send it to as many email addresses as you want. Just separate each email address with a comma. So I'm going to go ahead and do training@avaya.com. If I wanted another email address, again, separate as a comma. If you don't want to actually send the file, you can select this email as link, and then it will just have a link to that report. I'm just going to go ahead and send the report, and instead of a PDF format, perhaps maybe I want this in Excel spreadsheet. I can also save this to my directory if I don't want it emailed. I can also have it printed. Now it's important to note, you'll notice here I don't have any printers. Where it pulls the printers is the printers that are added to your Avaya call reporting server. It's not pulling your individual printers. So I'm accessing this from my PC, but this isn't installed on my PC, and that's why it doesn't see any of those printers. I need to go add those to my Avaya call reporting PC. But I'm going to go ahead and just do email. Hit next. Now we're on to step 2. When do I want this report? Do I want this hourly, daily, weekly, monthly? How often do I want this scheduled report? Let's go ahead and select a delivery time for each week. I'm going to go ahead and select next Monday, the 20th, and I want this report at 5 a.m. Hit OK. And then again, I want this weekly, but you can do hourly, day of the week, daily, monthly. It's really up to you. And under the monthly, you can do by the 1st of the month, the 2nd of the month. You'll notice here it says the report be delivered on the 20th of the month. The reason why it did that is because I selected the 20th on my next delivery date. If I want this on the 1st of every month, just select the 1st of the next month. You can have this run for selected months, but I'm going to go ahead and just do weekly. And I want this to run every week. Now we're on to step 3. We now know, okay, this is going to start scheduling the reports on the 20th. When it runs on the 20th, what date and time range do you want? Okay, for a weekly report, typically you want the previous week. So I'm going to select the previous Monday through the 19th because I have this report scheduled in the morning. If it was in the evening, perhaps I'd want to do something like this. If I had this running at 5 p.m. or 1700. But again, I have it in the morning, so I'm going to select the 13th through the 19th. When this runs on the 27th, it will have the 20th and the 26th, and so on. Because this was an agent report, what agents do you want on the report? Again, the nice thing is you can do those roles. So as you adjust those roles, your scheduled reports will also be adjusted. So we'll just go ahead and select that training role, which is my 15 users. Do I want any charts when I get this report? Again, I'm not going to get those because it's Excel spreadsheet, so I could take those out if I need to. And then finish. And I now have my scheduled report. To adjust that scheduled report, you simply go back, select scheduled report, and there we can see our training schedule. I can delete this, I can adjust it if I need to, I can tell it to run right now, or I can go ahead and create a new schedule. You can have as many scheduled reports as you want. Now, if you did not receive your scheduled report when you're supposed to, check with your Avaya business partner or IT administrator because Avaya call reporting needs to be enabled with your mail server, your SMTP server. If this was not done during the installation, you can adjust this by going to Admin System, System Settings, and then Basic Settings. Here you need to put in a valid email address. If your mail server requires encryption, you can do SSL or TLS. Put in your host, the port number, and your username and password if your mail server requires authentication. And then simply hit save. Okay. Let's now go back to the reports and review the call costing. If you want to do call costing, you need to set up your call cost profiles, meaning what cost do you want to associate to the different calls. There is a default call cost profile, but odds are this is not going to match because there's a lot of different companies around the world. Every company is unique. So let's go ahead and set up a call cost profile. I can do that within the reports, or I can do that from the main menu screen. Let's go ahead and hit add. We'll call this training. First thing I should do is select a default rate. If the calls don't match a particular rate table that I've created, what a cost do I want to associate to that? It could be 0 cost, or I'll just go ahead and do a flat rate of 2 cents per minute. So every call from here, if I were to do nothing, every call that I run this report on is going to associate to a cost of 2 cents a minute. But if I want to match a rate, I'm going to go ahead and add. So let's say, for example, I'm going to do international. My cost per minute for international calls is perhaps 7 cents a minute. I'm just picking numbers at random, but I need to now match my international calls. Now I'm located in the US, so whenever I call international, I'm going to do a call that starts with 9, because that's what I used to dial out, 011. If any call matches that number, hit OK, it's going to be associated with a cost of 7 cents per minute. But perhaps I have a local SIP trunk in the UK, and I don't want it to match that international rate, or I want to associate a rate for the UK. Okay, well, in my ARS within IP Office, I have a different SIP trunk that goes and adjusts my call to go out that UK SIP trunk. And this is very affordable. I just have a cost of 1 cent per minute. So I'm going to do add starts with, because if I were to dial the UK from the US, I would do 9011 and then the country code, which is 44. Hit OK. Hit OK. Now, there's a little bit of a problem because both of these technically would match. Now, it's going to do the most close match, so that should match the UK. But just to be safe, I'm going to go back and adjust my international rate table. I'm going to hit edit the number criteria, because I'm telling it to include all, and I'm going to do starts with or does not start with 901144. Let's take out the UK numbers. Now I could do the same thing if I wanted to do this for different area codes or zip codes. For instance, maybe I want to do one for the state of Minnesota. And I have, for some reason, a very expensive cost for this, 10 cents per minute when I call Minnesota. Okay, I can come in here, include any. My number starts with 9612. Starts with 9652. Whatever the different area codes are for whenever I call Minnesota, I could add those different numbers in here. And then I have my different rate table. Now, if you have a lot of different rate tables, you can do a bulk add and upload a CSV file. Okay, but once you're done, go ahead and click OK. Click OK again, and you can select that call cost profile. Now again, you can administer that from the actual reports or from the main menu under Reports, Manage Call Cost Profiles. There we have, again, our different call cost profiles. And I can come in here and add my different numbers. Okay. Let's now review some of the default system alerts and triggers. Under Real Time, you will see alerts and triggers, and then standard triggers. With standard reports, you can receive emergency notifications if ever someone calls an emergency phone number, such as 911 or 000 or 999, depending on where you're located. To adjust who gets those alerts, you just simply click to show, enter the email addresses that you want to have receive that alert, separate with a comma, or you can do a desktop notification. Now, to receive this desktop notification, you must be logged in to the desktop client. But again, I can select everybody if I want that to go to everyone, or just enter the different email addresses. You can also receive an alert if one of your connections goes down. Via call reporting can report on multiple IP offices. So if you're in a small community network or server edition and one of your sites go down, you can receive an alert. You can also get an alert if disk space starts running low. The system will let you know that when the server where ACR was installed, that disk space hits 95% capacity. You can get an alert, so you can go take action, clear off and make more room, or move it to a different server or drive. Now, to adjust your emergency call numbers, if this was not set up during installation, it is under the System Settings, Basic Settings, and here you have your emergency numbers. You can manually enter in your numbers, or you can simply select the Find option and select the different countries that you want to be alerted on. So maybe perhaps you're located in Australia, someone calls the emergency number for Australia, or you're located in Germany. Again, here you'll see all the different countries, so you don't need to worry about entering those. We'll go ahead and just enter a few more. Hit OK. There, it just added all the emergency numbers. Now, it's important to note that it's defaulting using a 9 to dial out. If you don't use a 9 to dial out and you maybe use an 8 or a 7, you need to go adjust that, or again, just type those emergency numbers in manually and then click OK. You can also have the system add a location to this. Now, it's important to note, this does not send that location settings to the emergency dispatch. This is for internal location notification only. So when you receive that email, when you receive that desktop, it will display the location that you entered for each of the users. Okay, so perhaps you need to know that this is room 202. Okay, or perhaps this is building A. Okay, this is just in case you don't know where each individual person sits or who everyone is. A lot of companies are very large out there. Sometimes you may not know everybody, so you may want to add a location, so that way when you get an alert, you know where that emergency is happening. Again, this will notify you instantly. It doesn't wait until the end of the call. It will notify you instantly. That is a high-level overview of all the different features and functionality within standard reports.